Okay, so good afternoon and welcome everyone to our first session for Nebosh IGC, the Nebosh International General Certificate. As I clarified last week as well, that the title of the course that you guys are undertaking is the Nebosh International General Certificate in Occupational Safety and Health. Now remember, Nebosh is not the title of the course. Nebosh is the name of the awarding body, which is the National Examination Board for Occupational Safety and Health. They will be awarding you this International General Certificate in Occupational Safety and Health. Now, what do we mean by occupational safety and health? Obviously, it is very, very important to understand what you are studying. So it's important to know that you're dealing with occupational safety and health only. So occupation basically means your job, your profession. So occupational safety and health deals with the safety and health of the workers and others related to their occupation. So if you get injured at work, if you get sick at work, then only it falls under occupational safety and health. Okay. So as I discussed earlier as well, Nebosh International General Certificate consists of two units. First unit is IG1. So this IG1, it is called Management of Health and Safety. And under IG1, there are four elements. So we are going to start element number 1 today. So this is element number 1, or you can also call it chapter number 1. And the chapter number 1 is why we should manage workplace health and safety. So let's go through this now. What are the learning objectives of this chapter? In this chapter, we're going to discuss the moral, social, and financial reasons for managing health and safety in the workplace. Many people ask, why do we need health and safety? Okay, what's the reason for spending so much money on hiring safety people? Why do we need them? So in this chapter, we're going to discuss why it is important to manage health and safety in the workplace. There are basically three reasons. There are moral reasons for managing health and safety, there are social or legal reasons, and there are financial reasons. Okay, so social and legal, they are the same, and then financial reasons for managing health and safety. So moral, social or legal, and financial reasons, these are the three reasons for managing health and safety in the workplace. We're also going to explain how health and safety is regulated and what are the consequences of non-compliance. Okay, now we all know that there is a certain regulation in every country. There is a certain legislation in every country. And if you don't follow that law, that legislation, obviously there are consequences. So we're going to discuss the consequences of not complying with the health and safety regulations. Then we're going to summarize the main health and safety duties of different groups of people at work. We're going to discuss what are the roles and responsibilities of various people, and we're going to explain how contractors should be selected, monitored, and managed. Okay, so this is these are the contents of the chapter number 1. Okay, morals and money. Before moving on to the reasons for managing health and safety, it is important to understand what actually health and safety means. Basically, these are some basic terms which we must remember, starting off with health. What is health? Health is simply, you can say that it is the absence of disease or ill health. Okay, so the absence of disease or ill health, it means that you are healthy. In addition to this, you must be mentally, physically fit as well. So you're not only physically fit, you need to be mentally fit as well. Okay, so you should be free from any disease or illness, and you should also be physically and mentally fit to say that you are healthy. Okay, then what is safety? Safety is basically the absence of risk of serious potential injury. So if you are working in an environment where you are not at risk of being injured, it means you are safe. Okay, so the absence of risk of injury, means safety. So safety is a state in which you feel protected, in which you feel free from the risk of being injured. Then there is welfare. What is welfare? Welfare is basically the access to all the basic needs and facilities. What are the basic needs and facilities of humans? Obviously, we need to have drinking water available. We need to have access to the toilet, sanitary facilities. We need to have access to food and drink as well. So we need to have a place to where we can sit and eat and drink. Okay. Um, Also temperature in the workplace, that also falls under welfare. Also, all of these things which deal with your basic needs, they are considered as welfare facilities. So these are some important terms to remember, which we will use further on. Okay, let's start off with a small group exercise. Why might the management of an organization not consider health and safety to be a priority? Okay, so I'm going to come to you guys now, and I want you guys to give me some reasons. Why do you think that the management of an organization might not give priority to health and safety? Okay, who is going to give me his opinion on this question? Anybody? Yes, Suresh, go ahead.
Accidents may occur.
Accidents may occur. Okay, what else?
And performance also very low.
Okay, but why do you think the management is not considering safety as important? If the accidents are happening, they should realize that it is important, right? Why?
Yes, yes.
Why don't
Yes,
they
sir.
think safety is important?
Maybe
Nelson.
because they are focused on their outcome, their
Yes,
output.
they are focused on their outcomes, on the
To save the money,
to save money. Okay, yes.
Yes, I think they believe that health and safety does not actually contribute any money to the firm.
Very
Therefore,
good.
thereby lack much interest in that side. They always
Okay,
want to
very good.
make money.
Very good.
Okay.
We have Puneet. Puneet, you want to say something?
Yeah, Mahmoud.
Okay, Mahmood, go ahead. Mahmood, go ahead first.
Yeah, it's because the management does not think the health and safety is always that can happen to any worker. They think the workers are always safe. Nothing can happen. That is why they don't take this as a priority.
Okay, okay. Puneet, do you want to say something? Okay, so anyways, I mean, most of you have given the correct answer. You hit the nail on the head. Basically, most of the time, the management don't give priority to health and safety because they think that safety is not a money-making department. Health and safety department does not generate any revenue, okay? But it is very important to convince the management that, okay, we don't generate any money, but we save a lot of money for you. How do we save a lot of money for the company, for our organizations? Number one, we save money by preventing accidents. Okay, if an accident happens, there are so many costs associated with accidents, which we are going to discuss shortly. So it is very, very important to convince your management that health and safety is very, very important. Okay, maybe they are too much focused on their business and they want to generate more income, they want to generate more business, so they are only focused on their progress and they don't consider safety a priority. Maybe they don't have adequate training. Okay, maybe they don't have adequate resources. Okay, they'll say, okay, we don't have the resources, let's leave safety to the end. If we get resources, we will do it. Okay, maybe they are not aware of their obligations or their roles and responsibilities. They might not be aware of the legal requirements. Okay, and they might not be aware of the consequences of not following the legal requirements and not following the safety requirements. So as safety professionals, it is our job to be able to convince the management why health and safety is important and why they need to give priority to health and safety. Okay. Okay, here are some reasons you can show your management to convince them that safety is a priority. The moral reasons for managing health and safety. Now, here are some statistics which have been gathered through ILO. These are global statistics for the entire world. Global statistics from the International Labour Organization Safe Work Program. Now, the ILO, the International Labour Organization, is a subsidiary of the United Nations. They have been tasked by the United Nations to work for the protection of the rights of laborers around the world. Okay. Now, these statistics, these have been gathered from all the ILO member countries, and globally, there are more than 350,000 work-related fatal accidents every year. What do you mean by fatal accidents? A fatal accident is an accident in which a person dies. One or more people die. Okay, a fatality is a death at work. So in the whole world, every year there are more than 350,000 work-related accidents. Okay, and in many of these accidents, there are more than one fatalities. There are multiple people who die as well. Okay. Okay. 2.75 million work-related fatalities every year. So more than 2.75 million people die at work every year. Imagine that. 2.4 million fatalities from occupational diseases. So 2.74 million are the people, the 75 million are the people who die at work every year, and 2.4 million people die from the diseases that they acquire due to their work. 270 million accidents and 160 million diseases a year due to work, which is a total 4% of the entire global GDP, which is lost, which goes down the drain. Now imagine you are the managing director of an organization. Would you feel proud that somebody has died or somebody has been injured under your management? You would be ashamed. So this is the moral reason for managing health and safety. Now, these numbers, these statistics, they show that we kill more people at work. We kill more people at work than the number of people that are killed in war. How many people have died in war in the past year or so? Okay, there are significant amounts of war and significant number of people dying. But compared to these figures, those numbers are very, very less. So we are killing more people at work than the number of people dying in wars, which is a shame. And it is immoral. It is immoral that people have to come to work and earn a living and they go back to their family in a coffin. It is totally unacceptable and it is totally immoral. And as safety professionals, we need to be able to convince our management. We need to be able to raise this with our management to make them understand how important it is to manage health and safety. Okay, now let's say an employee at your workplace has been seriously injured in a workplace accident. So what I want you to do is I want you to identify the possible effects and implications of this accident on, number one, the injured employee, the company, and the line manager. Okay, so guys, I need your involvement here again. So what do you guys think will happen to the injured employee if an accident happens in the workplace and he gets injured? What are the implications for the injured employee? Yes, anybody?
Yeah,
Yes, Sydney.
yeah. An injured employee would not be able to continue his work again. He will have
Yes,
to retire home for treatment, and he's going to leave a vacancy in the department he's working, where he's
yes,
working. So he won't be
very
able to
good,
finish his job anymore. Yeah.
good. Anybody else? Suresh, you want to say something?
After injuring this person, maybe delay in their assigned work, and
Yes,
there is of we need to give, if person injured, we need to give some medical assistance also, right? So we need to spend.
yes. What is the first thing he will feel after an injury? He will feel a lot of pain. He will have to undergo a lot of suffering. Okay, he will lose work. He will be out of work for a while. If he gets seriously injured, if he has any amputation, he might not be able to work his entire life again. He will lose his livelihood. He will be under a lot of mental torture, mental stress, because he won't be able to work again. Think about the suffering. Think about the pain and suffering his family and friends will have to go through, because they have lost someone who is their sole breadwinner. He might be the only person in the family who is capable of earning money, who is working. So imagine the amount of loss. Okay, Ali Talatabasi, you want to say something? Ali? Ali Talatabasi, you raise your hand.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Islam, yes.
So my question is, what's the responsibilities of line manager in this case, if the in any person is injured in the workplace?
Okay, okay. So we will come to that. We've talked about the injured employee. Now we're going to talk about the implications to the company. Okay. What implications could the company face? Okay. The company, obviously, they could be faced with a number of implications. Number one, they will have to bear the cost of treatment of the injured person. Okay, Nelson wants to say something. Nelson, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to contribute to the company
Sure.
since you started.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Go ahead, you
so
can
the company,
speak. Yeah.
yes, the implication to the company is that they will have to bear the cost for the treatment of this employee. They
Yeah.
will as well have to bear the cost for replacing the injured employee, like replacing someone to make sure there's continuity of work so far as the
Yes.
person is absent.
Yeah.
And then also they may face some legal
Legal
complaints
implications.
if implications if it happens that probably the person die or
Yes.
so. So there are a couple of them, at least two for myself.
Very well said, Nelson. So basically, what the company have to go through, they will have to go through the costs. Okay, they will have to hire a person to replace the injured person. They will have to bear the money or the cost associated with that as well. They will have to bear the cost of retraining the employee. Okay, because if you lose an employee who is well trained, the new employee, he won't be able to catch up with the job immediately. So you need to give him time and training. So you're losing a lot of money, you're losing production, you're losing your reputation as well. If word gets out in the media that this company is injuring their workers and not taking care of their workers, you could lose your reputation. People might stop buying your products. People might stop hiring you, or people might stop giving you work. So there could be huge implications for the company as well. Then finally, for the line manager, what are the implications for the line manager? There are a lot of implications for the line manager. Now, the line manager or the supervisor who is in charge of the workplace, who is immediately looking after all the workers, he will be held responsible as well, because he is the person who is responsible for the providing the resources to those workers. If he is found negligent in his duty, he could also face a lot of issues. Okay, in addition to fines to the company from the court, or having to pay compensation by the company, the line manager, he might be facing imprisonment as well. He might be facing fines from the law as well. He might lose his job from the organization. Okay, he might, obviously, if somebody gets injured under your watch, you will be stressed, you'll be under a lot of stress, and you might go through a lot of mental torture as well. So there are huge implications associated with the various parties involved, including the injured employee, the company, and the line manager, in case an accident happens in the workplace. Okay, so those were the moral reasons about managing health and safety. What about financial reasons for managing health and safety? Financial reasons, there are many financial reasons, as we discussed before as well, because if an accident happens, okay, everything associated with cost after that incident, it deals with the financial reasons. Okay, so accidents, as we discussed, they cost a lot of money. Even ill health, if somebody gets sick at work, if people fall ill at work and it is attributed to the work, your company will have to bear a lot of costs. Okay, so there are huge costs associated with accidents and ill health. Now, these costs can be categorized into two main categories. There are direct costs associated with accidents and ill health, and there are indirect costs associated with accidents and ill health. Now, what do we mean by direct cost? Direct cost is the measurable cost arising directly from the accident. So if an accident happens, okay, the person who is injured, the money you will spend on his treatment, it's a direct cost. Okay, the products or materials that you lose during the accident, it is a direct cost. The property damage that you will incur during the accident, it is a direct cost. The money you will lose due to work stoppage immediately on the scene of the incident, that is a direct cost as well. So all of the costs which are measurable and are arising directly from the accident are called direct costs. Then there are indirect costs which arise as a consequence of the event, but may not be directly involving money as well. And they are often difficult to quantify. For example, if you are having repeated accidents on your workplace, the insurance companies, they will increase your premiums, and you don't know how much they will increase the premium. Okay, they might not even give you insurance in future. They might say that you are an unsafe organization, we cannot give you insurance. Okay, then obviously there is the future loss of business. You had an accident, you've got a bad reputation, there might be other businesses, other projects that you were about to be awarded, but because of that accident, the organizations or the clients, they will not award you those accidents. So these are indirect costs. They are arising as a consequence of the event, but are not directly relating to money, and they are often difficult to quantify. Okay, health and safety failure can affect the broader economy as well as individual companies. So obviously, if there are many accidents, health and safety failures are happening, it will have a significant effect on the entire economy of that region as well, not only on individual companies. Okay, so another important classification of costs is based on the insurance. Now, some costs can be insured and some costs cannot be insured. What are the insured costs? The insured costs include the losses that you might incur in a fire. Okay, so the losses caused by fire, they can be insured against. worker injury or death can be insured against as well. Obviously, in our case, we have what you call it, the workers' blood money, which is given if a person dies at work, or he is undergoing a permanent total disability or a permanent partial disability, then he gets a certain amount of money which is given to him by law. So this cost can be insured against. Then there is the medical costs. If a person gets injured and he has to go to hospital for treatment, the cost incurred on the treatment, that is insured against. It's a law in the UAE that every organization must provide insurance to its employees. So we have medical insurance. Every one of us has medical insurance. That is also an insured cost. Then there are certain uninsured costs. What are the uninsured costs? Number one, the loss of raw material due to the accidents. Now, the loss of material cannot be insured. Okay, so you cannot insure if let's say an oil tanker has an accident. Okay, and the tanker breaks and all the oil spills. You cannot insure that spilled oil. Okay, there is no way to get your money back. You might be able to get the money back on the damage incurred to your tanker because you have vehicle insurance as well. So you might get vehicle insurance, but you will not be able to get the cost back for the oil you lost. So that's the raw material you lost. Or if there is a accident with the concrete mixer, if the concrete mixer meets an accident and the concrete goes wasted, that is a loss. That concrete, it cannot be insured. Okay, so that is raw material which you cannot insure. And then there is sick pay. If somebody gets injured, legally you have to give them sick pay. In the UAE, there is a law that if a person gets injured at work or due to any illness, he can be given 15 days fully paid leave. Okay, and then he can be given another I think 60 days with half pay, and then after that he can be given leave without pay as well. But still, obviously, the sick pay that the company has to pay, it is a cost which they cannot insure. They cannot get that money back. Then equipment repairs. If there is any plant and equipment which is uninsured, like for example batching plants or other plants, they cannot be insured. Okay, vehicles, obviously they can be insured and you will get the repair cost from the insurance company, but plant, stationary equipment, most of the time they are uninsured. Then lost materials, any material that you lose during the accident. So all of these are uninsured costs. And there was a study done in the UK in which they found out that the insured and uninsured costs, they can be represented by an iceberg. What's an iceberg? The iceberg, basically, it's a massive piece of ice, okay, and only a small tip is visible out of the water. And there's a huge mountain of ice below that tip. So this is how you can differentiate insured and uninsured costs. So the insured costs account for only £1. Okay, so if there is £1 insured cost, the associated uninsured costs can range from £8 to £36. Okay, so you can imagine how much costs you can lose after an accident, and you can only recover or insure a small percentage of that cost. Okay. Okay, so that was regarding the financial reasons. What are the three main reasons of managing health and safety? Obviously, it is moral, legal, and financial reasons. What should an employer provide to ensure health and safety? The employer should provide a safe place of work, safe plant and equipment, safe system of work, training, supervision, and competency of the individuals. Okay, now let's come to the legal reasons. Regulating health and safety. Regulating health and safety basically deals with the legal reasons for managing health and safety. It is very, very important to understand the legal requirements of the country that you are working in. Now, every country, they have their own legal structure. they have their own legal requirements, and you must make sure those legal requirements are met. Okay. Now, most countries in the world, they have their own health and safety laws. For example, in UAE, the health and safety law, the most commonly accepted health and safety law is the federal law number 8. UAE has a federal law number 8, which is the law on labor relations. It contains a lot of health and safety legislative requirements that the companies need to follow or employers need to follow. Then there is the ministerial decision number 32, ministerial order number 32 or ministerial decision number 32. This is a specific law on protection of workers against workplace hazards. Okay, so it tells you what requirements the employers must follow in order to protect their workers against occupational hazards. Okay, so these are the two most common laws in the UAE. In addition to this, there is the what you call it, medical law as well, which is the ministerial decision number 37/2. Then there is the environmental law, federal law number 24. Then there is in Abu Dhabi, there is the OSHAD, which is the Occupational Safety and Health Department, which have their own codes of practices. Those COPs are part of the legal requirements as well. In Dubai, there is a Dubai Municipality Codes of Practices, which are again legal requirements. But these are local laws. So basically, the most common law which we have to follow is the federal law. There is a federal law which is applicable to the entire country or all emirates. And then there are local laws or provincial laws or emirate laws which are applicable only to those emirates. Okay. So now it is very important to make sure that we identify the legal requirements and we make sure that we comply with the legal requirements. What will happen if we don't comply with the legal requirements? There can be serious consequences. Okay. So if you fail to achieve the minimum legal requirements or the minimum legal standards, it can lead to prosecution. What is prosecution? Prosecution is when you will be taken in front of the court. You will be there will be a proper case against you, and you will be prosecuted. And as a result of the prosecution, you might face serious repercussions. You might face fines. You might face imprisonment, or in some cases, you might undergo both. Okay. So there are many repercussions associated with non-compliance of legal requirements. Okay, now internationally, there is no international law on health and safety. However, there is an international framework. Now that framework is not mandatory for every country. So the international framework basically consists of the regulations put forward by the International Labour Organization. Okay. Now, as I told you guys earlier as well, that the ILO, or the International Labour Organization, it is a subsidiary of the United Nations, and it works towards the protection of labor rights. Okay. It has done a lot of work over the years to protect the rights of the workers around the world. Now, obviously, because it is a United Nations subsidiary, so many of the countries around the world, they are a member of ILO. And if you are a member of ILO and you have signed up to their instruments and you have signed up to their conventions and recommendations, it becomes mandatory for you to follow and implement those conventions and recommendations as well. Okay, so most of the countries, they are members, but it's not necessary that every country has signed up to the implementation of the conventions of the ILO. But if you have signed the conventions, then if you have ratified the conventions, then you must abide by them. Okay, so ILO, as we discussed, it sets various international standards regarding health and safety, and they do this by publishing various conventions and various recommendations. They have certain codes of practice as well. So ILO issues conventions, recommendations, and codes of practice as well. However, only conventions are mandatory. the recommendations and code of practice, those are not mandatory for the member countries to follow. Okay, so the international framework basically based on convention and recommendations. These are the conventions and recommendations that every country bases their law on. So the ILO provides a global international framework, and every country, in order to comply with that framework, they develop their own law. They develop their own health and safety legislation. Okay. Now the international framework, the ILO framework, it consists of mainly conventions, recommendations, and COPs. Conventions, basically, they create binding obligations or policies to implement their provisions. So binding means it is mandatory for the member country to implement the recommendations or the policies mentioned in the conventions. Okay. Obviously, there is no legal authority. The United Nations or the ILO cannot, enforce this. So because they have no legal authority, unless it is ratified by the member state into its own legal structure. The only way the ILO can do something about it is that they can tell their member states that you signed up to this, you have ratified this convention, you must now implement it. Okay, so this is how the enforcement at international level takes place. Then there are recommendations. These are guidance on the policy, legislation, and practice, but they are not mandatory. Okay, what are the most common documents related to health and safety issued from ILO? They issued Occupational Safety and Health Convention, C-155. So the convention C-155, this is the Occupational Health and Safety Convention, and it is the most important convention related to health and safety that the ILO has issued. It is a goal-setting policy for companies and nations. So even if you're a company and you want to follow it, you can go ahead and follow it. Or if you're a country and you want to follow it, and you can develop your own legal framework based on this convention. Then there is the Occupational Health and Safety Recommendation, R-164, issued in 1981, and it supplements the requirements of C-155 and gives more guidance on how to comply with those policies. Now, as per the requirements of Article 16 of C-155, employers have certain obligations. Okay, so I think before we move on to discuss this further, it's been 45 minutes, so let's take a small break here. Okay, so it's 3:15 now. We will take a break and we will be back at 3:30. Okay, guys? So let's take a break. We'll come back at 3:30 and you can join. So you can join the meeting again by clicking on the same link at 3:30 p.m. Okay? So let's take a break, guys.
Okay.